After telling you so long, I'm still here, baby. After saying that I'd be gone, I'm still here. After telling you so long, I'm still here, baby. After saying that I'd be gone, you're right here to kiss me when I want some. Oh yeah, you're right here to hold me when I need some. Ooh wee girl, you're right here to kiss. Oh yeah, your love don't resist me for your heat, and I'm so glad that
Think you can't clutch through a smoke while recording in full resolution and streaming the play to the world? Watch this.
Counter-terrorists win.
Think you can't get famous in a flash? Like become your own meme famous? Watch this. Think he's been there, done that? With Intel Core i7, he's just getting started. Game, record, stream without compromise on Intel Core i7.
Cool, right? Want to know where I got it? Well, look, go to cs.money. It's a trade platform and a marketplace at the same time. Just choose, click, and get. Good luck, bro.
LootBet, made for live betting.
I'm all the stars, like God, I can give you life.
Introducing the all-new Corolla hatchback. Toyota, let's go places.
Numerous forces aimed at the Earth. The glorious battle begin. Geared up for victory. LG Ultra Gear Gaming Monitor.
iBUYPOWER Masters 2019 continues to soldier on as we have finally now made it to the playoff stages as our first semifinal is set to go live. It's Liquid looking for some revenge for their fallen North American brethren as they face off against Fnatic.
Yeah, it's a rematch, a grudge match almost in regards. I mean, Liquid got upset by Fnatic at Chicago in the group stages, and so I think that they're looking to kind of, still assert that they're a top team even with their roster change, and obviously Fnatic would like to continue on their good form.
I mean, I don't even care about any of that, to be honest with you. I'm just super excited. I haven't seen this Liquid lineup yet with Stewie yet. That's all I want to see. We haven't gotten them on the stage yet, so this is like that first glimpse of what this can be. Because I think these changes can be, like with Stewie coming in, I think you can't underestimate. You have to remember, this is a guy who took over being like the face, the attitude, and the emotion and the heart of Cloud9. He took it from nothing. Who's a legendary player in his own right in that same regard. And the fact that he comes into this team, a team that without Taco and without Zeus have always missed some kind of personality that can really drive them forward. Stewie can be that force. So I think not only with his contributions as a player in the game, he can be an amazing change of attitude, an amazing change of mindset for this team on their path to trying to overcome Astralis. Now the tough part for them is they have so much to prove, and they can't really do it here because they ended 2018 as the second best team in the year. They accomplished everything there was to accomplish in Counter-Strike except for beating Astralis and lifting that trophy, right? So no matter how good they perform here, no matter how good they perform to the finals, the question that Liquid has to answer is there's only one of them, and it's can you beat Astralis? Does this change help you beat Astralis?
It's actually insane, like how many of the losses Liquid had last year came to Astralis. Like over half of the best of 3 series they lost last year were to Astralis, and like 44% of their map losses were to Astralis. So they were rocking it against everyone, particularly Na'Vi. That was like the big head-to-head matchup that they had going their way, was being able to beat Na'Vi head-to-head all the time. And while Energy gave them some trouble, typically able to beat them, always able to beat Made in Brazil. So it really was just Astralis that stood in their way, and maybe FaZe to a small degree. So yeah, with this change, it's like, is this the secret to finally being able to surpass Astralis? And as Moses already kind of alluding to, like, what can Stewie bring to this team? Because a lot of the criticism against Team Liquid was the fact that when they would play Astralis, when they would get in pressure games, they would sometimes kind of lose their creativity. They get a little bit too timid, almost a playing not to lose mentality rather than taking initiative and doing what you need to actually push yourself over the line. I feel like Stewie 2K is that personality and that style of player that will add their flair, particularly on CT sides, getting aggressive and making plays for them, helping them get back in the games. And from speaking with Adren, their coach, I know for a fact that it isn't just as simple as Stewie plugging into all of old Taco spots. Like, they've actually been able to make some other tweaks to implement Stewie 2K in a meaningful way where he gets some comfortable positions for himself, where he can be more of a featured player instead of kind of, just a supportive type guy when he was on Made in Brazil.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. Yeah, Stewie's going to be able to do his own things, and Stewie's going to change some of the way they play things over time. It might not all happen at once, but either way, I'm just really pumped to see what this team is going to turn into now. Early returns, and for whatever you want to take from it, which usually isn't much, is that the practice and the scrims that this team has been coming up with in this past week or two have been going great. Is that a lot of teams have just been watching Liquid do a very, very good job and just kind of run over teams, and that doesn't translate to the tournament area as we all know, but it is just a positive sign at the very least moving forward. It's that first step.
Yeah, I think in general, if you look at this roster, they feel like they came out on the better end picking up Stewie. You can make an argument that maybe the coach, we don't really know how that's going to work quite yet. You know, Adren's been out of active competition for a while, competing with Mythic, playing in the Mountain Dew League, and now he comes into a coach's position in Pro League.
You just have to understand that they are two completely different types of coaches on what they actually focus on while being the coach. I mean, Zeus was a guy that certainly could help like set up your initial system. He could pitch in ideas here and there. He was always really good at finding like new creative smokes or flashbangs that could maybe add a little bit extra layer to your game. But I think what he was most important for this team was kind of managing personalities, helping people's attitudes stay in check, keeping things disciplined, and kind of just being like that calming force of the team at times, but also kicking people in the gear when they needed to be. Whereas I feel like Adren is much more focused on the tactical side of Counter-Strike. He's much more focused on giving Nitro more ideas, deepening their playbook. And I think one of his biggest tasks was figuring out how do I implement Stewie 2K onto this team and make sure that I do a good enough balance of making sure I put Stewie 2K in positions that will, you know, be meaningful, will allow him to contribute to the team, but making sure that he doesn't rock the boat too much because the foundation for this team already is really strong. I mean, they played 14 LANs last year and only placed outside top 4 times. You know, like they had a really good run last year, so many finals appearances. It was just Astralis was always there and they could never get past them. So you don't want to rock the boat too much, but you do want to get Stewie some comfortable positions.
I say you rock that boat. I say you tip it over. You got Stewie coming in, that's a game-changing player, and yeah, you have a great foundation, but you weren't able to lift trophies. And I look back consistently, not just the Astralis victory, perhaps the most damaging one is that loss in New York to Mouse Sports, which is just an egregious dropping of the ball by Liquid in that grand final. And I think you do. I think you just change everything up. If you're not able to get over the hump, you spent the entire year as essentially like one of the second best team. The majority of the year is the second best team, and you're still not able to lift trophies even when Astralis isn't in attendance. I say you go a little bit deeper than just kind of, you know, not rocking the boat. I think you change fundamentally some things because Stewie can be such a dynamic player that you can build some specific things around, as we saw in Cloud9.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really prominent on CT side. I think there's going to be a lot of aggressive plays that are designed around Stewie 2K taking initiative. And I think that one of the luxuries is that there are some maps where Stewie 2K actually wants to play Taco's old spots. And so that's going to kind of help keep people grounded and help him still be in spots he wants to play, like Squeaky Door and Cash, for instance. Like that's still a playmaking spot. A lot of playmakers play Squeaky Door and Cash, like a Shox, like a Nico, and Stewie is no different. So that's a natural thing, whereas in some other maps there has been some deeper tweaking to implement Stewie, like Inferno, for instance. I know they've changed a lot on that map on their T side, and maybe we'll get to that if we do wind up playing Inferno, which we probably could. So yeah, I think there's a good balance going on of adjustments and roles and spots and stuff like that.
I think the nice thing about this match as well is that Fnatic actually showed that quality this morning. Like I mean, even Exist said it in the interview. You know, yesterday in some of the games they've played, they didn't feel like they were, you know, playing up to their level. That they felt a little bit sluggish. He said they've been rusty, hadn't played in a couple days, and now what we saw from them this morning against Cloud9, yeah, it's a close victory. Yeah, they had to squeak out with some smoke diffuses, but this is a much stronger team from top to bottom as well. 4 players contributing, all within 2 or 3 frags of each other at the end of the day. Karim's still leading the way, still having solid performances. We saw Exist stepping up in big ways, and Berlin and Twist have shown up in their own way in various games, which is all positive signs. Even JW had a pretty solid game in that Mirage. So if they can continue that, if they can continue that team effort, they're going to need it against this Liquid team that's super deep as well. I think we can't forget Liquid had what, 3 players in the top 20. They had Elige, Twist, and Naf. All in top 20. So I mean, they have some very skilled players as well that can match up with anyone in the world.
And actually, Nitro wasn't too far out of the top 20 from what I remember. You know, definitely one of the better fragging and game leaders in the world. So, and then you add Stewie 2K, which is just like another huge piece of firepower if he gets comfortable. So yeah, they really have a lot of fragging power on Liquid. But I mean, you look at Fnatic, and so far so good. I think has to be the thing that you conclude, because they did so well at Chicago. They placed top 4. They beat Liquid, and they had a really good series against Astralis where they almost upset them and almost made the final. Like they looked really sharp in that Chicago event, and then they played that PLG event, which granted wasn't the greatest event, not the biggest amount of competition, but at least they took care of business and took home a title. So it gets them a little bit of a trophy early on in a smaller event. And you know, Braun and Twist on average, you know, outside of that one best of one yesterday, have played really well. Like they've done everything you would hope for them to do, to be those star level players for the team alongside Karims, to give them enough firepower to be dangerous. And I think Fnac's done a good job making sure that, unlike some other roster transactions that take place where you bring in a new player and he kind of just has to fill the gaps of, you know, who was kicked and he doesn't maybe get what he needs to you know, be the star he wants to be. I think they've done a great job implementing Brolin in a meaningful way, giving him the spots he's used to playing, letting him kind of, you know, be where he wants to be to try to be the best player that he can be.
I mean, looking at the young players, you keep talking about Brolin, but looking at Twist last year went from being a promising player to being potentially the best NA player. In fact, they were doing interviews, I think it was at IEM Chicago, and they were asking players, who's the best player in North America right now? And a lot of players were saying Twists.
Yeah, I mean, he's an incredible talent. When you watch him play, it is jaw-dropping at times. I congratulated him yesterday on his placing in the top 20, just because I remember when he was first coming into, if you think back to the PGL major that was in Krakow, the qualifier for that, where they had that heartbreaking loss to Flipside, who had Electronic playing for him on Mirage. Triple overtime, Twist had a bunch of clutches. That was a crushing defeat, and to have, in the span of, what, like a year, come from that kind of a situation to all of a sudden, you're being considered to be one of the best players, you know, in NA. You're competitive now on the world scale, not only individually, but also as a team. It was an incredible rise for Team Liquid over the course of that time. So I think Twist as an individual is also just a product of that. This team just stepped its game up in every aspect.
He's also just a super flexible player. Like, I remember early on when I first started watching him play on lesser professional teams, like back when he used to play with Ocean, for instance, back in that SKDC team. And even into TSM days, he was much more of kind of a passive force, much more of like a lurk or edge of the map player. But when he came onto this Liquid team after the player break last year, they had made a conscious effort to be like, no, we want to get him more active. We want to get him more involved in early round situations, secondary entry fragging even in some cases. And he really embraced that and kind of evolved as a player to add that element to his game. Like, he still can play the edge of the map solo roles. He's comfortable doing that. He's really good at it. He's very patient. But when it is needed, when they want to run a certain execute or maybe on a certain map where they want to change up the roles, Twist is a very capable opening force as well. I think that flexibility is what makes him so valuable, and it's probably also what helps him adjust to this Stewie 2K lineup change a little bit better, that you can kind of move Twist around when you need to maybe get Stewie in better spots.
I mean, looking at Fnatic, and we watched them play, we obviously haven't seen Liquid play, so we're really hopeful that they're going to come out swinging like we've been told they've been doing online, but now we're getting our first taste of watching them on LAN. We've seen Fnatic play on LAN, and to be perfectly honest, at this event, I'm slightly disappointed.
It's been an up and down affair, but like I said, I mean, it's also, you got to remember, the first event of the year. There is going to be a little bit of rust coming into that, no matter what team. Every team is going to be saying that and feeling a little bit off. And as long as they're building into the event, like, that's the entire thing. The group stage, yeah, it looked dicey at times, but they got the job done. They qualified. They're in the top 4. They're in the semifinals. And now, as long as, I mean, you've bought yourself that day to kind of build yourself back to playing weight, and then we'll see what they do from here. They have a pretty, I mean, there is an advantage that a lot of teams have over Team Liquid is the opping situation. You have to bring that up. Nitro transitioning into also being the in-game leader. I imagine with this Liquid team with Stewie, we're going to see Stewie pick up the op a little bit more often than you probably are used to seeing in the past.
Naf's doing it now.
Yeah, Naf's picking it up as well, but I mean, there is going to be that little bit of an advantage in that department when you have so many different players using the AWP, not one being the primary, and also it's you know, very situational. Is this guy feeling the op? Is this guy feeling the op? Is he not? And other teams that come into that have a guy set up where you know you have strats built around this guy being your opper. So I think that's always going to be, it's not like a glaring weakness. It's not like the end of the world for Team Liquid, but it is just a sore spot in the way this team is constructed.
It's minimized a small amount because in comparison to maybe some other teams where, like, you know for sure who's opping every round, I would say Fnatic to a degree does fluctuate between Twist and JW a little bit. So it's not as stable as, say, like, you know Guardian's going to be opping for FaZe or something like that. So it helps minimize it a bit. But yeah, that always has been the knock against Team Liquid, because I think the other knock was, like, is Nitro a true in-game leader? I think he's kind of come out on top on that point as a tactician. I think he does a great job. So yeah, the only other thing you have to think about is, yeah, the opping department is, I mean, of all the, let's say, top 10 teams in the world, you know, Nitro is probably the lesser known opper of all of them, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think just the style of opping that Nitro brings in is a little bit more passive, and it's a little bit more emphasized on the defensive side. I think as an offense on the attacking, on the terror side, the opping, he's not some guy who's going to take some kind of a crazy peek and get you a pick, right? He's not going to be able to go head to head and challenge some opper holding an angle as well. So I think more so it's suited for the CT side. That's why I think we might see a little bit more opping from Stewie's on the T side, where he is that playmaking force. He's willing to take some of those fights because he's a little bit mentally ill, crazy.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I'm actually a little bit surprised how well Nitro has fragged, despite the fact he's had to make that role swap. Like, we talk about it, he is one of the best fragging in-game leaders in the world. I mean, obviously Glaze up top. You know, Chris J on Mouse Sports has always been known as a pretty good fragging IG. Obviously, Nico now on FaZe is calling, and obviously a very strong fragger. But I mean, I feel like Nitro is, you know, not as strong as a Nico or a Glaive, but I don't think that he's like crazy far behind. I think the great thing about Nitro is when you run a 5-rifle setup, he is that fearless entry fragger that will go in and set up like a Glaive-like figure, and I think he has a lot of value because of that.
No, it definitely does, and I mean that is kind of one way they get around it is by running the 5 rifle that they're very efficient with. So yeah, I mean don't let it sneak up on you though, because like a lot of those frags that he's getting, it doesn't necessarily mean he's having a great game with the op, right? If they're running that 5 rifle setup on the T side, he's going to get some kills that way. But he can be a very deadly force. I mean, he's got a lot of skills. He's got some very sharp skills, and I think people kind of forget about that and sleep on it because the questions surrounding him as a player consistently, especially last year, was how's his transition into an in-game leader? How's his transition into using the op more? You're not focusing on his fragging power with the AK because there's so many other important questions in terms of the team framework overall about his in-game leading, about his opping as well. So yeah, I mean, Nitro is a guy that people tend to sleep on.
I mean, that does kind of feel like it's one of the things that Liquid is still missing is like that strong primary op. Like Nitro's doing a decent job of manning the helm, but when they picked up Stewie, it was like, okay, like I could see Stewie being a hybrid player, but man, they would really benefit from
I can tell you they did float the idea of Stewie taking over the op. I think that was a discussion because that would have got Nitro into a permanent entry fragging role, and then, you know, Stewie, you'd still have him on 5 rifle setups using an AK, but he was the guy that had like that mentality, that swagger, that aggression about him, where that personality actually does suit a T-side opper pretty well. Like the fearlessness to take a peek that you know you're probably, a CT's already holding the angle, but you still need to go make that peek and get that kill. So that is why you might see it, as you know, Moses kind of talked about earlier. You might see it sometimes, but definitely not the primary.
That's another factor we got to talk about is the 6th man factor. You know, we have the crowd that is very
all those
much
Cloud9 jerseys have now transformed into Liquid fans, I imagine, for this one.
Yeah, I think the big difference isn't necessarily like any kind of home field advantage with an audience like this. I think it's that it's a smaller venue. It's loud in here as the players. We've already seen some of the tweets is that it is a new experience. It changes the way you have to play the game. There's a lot of tricks that players use on the stage when they hear a grenade go off in the back of their mind, when they hear it in the auditorium speakers, the grenade, the flashbangs, the Molotovs, whatever it might be. All of that is information that players are using to make a decision. So as a player, if you get too caught up on trying to think about how someone's going to game that, then you can really get lost. But it is going to change the way that these players have to approach situations.
Sure.
Now, looking at the map pool, I'm sure we'll be jumping into the picks and bans in just a little bit. I know that, you know, Fnatic just getting their things set up on stage. You've done your homework here, Dust. You have basically a Counter-Strike encyclopedia.
How many pages you got on Team Liquid there?
Like 12 or something like that.
Nice 12 pages
anyway,
of notes.
12?
What's your question?
We've gone through like 1. If you want, do you want to just read the whole thing?
No, we're good. That's for filling if we need to fill. I'll get you. But what was your question?
Looking at the map pools for these teams, it does feel like, based on what they were able to do last year, that Liquid probably has a deeper pool.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing is, like, the Liquid map pool is so hard to read on the surface when you just look at numbers because of how many losses were to Astralis. Like, for example, their nuke record overall, when you look at it, oh, they're 8-10 offline on nuke. That looks really bad. Well, guess what? Like, all those losses basically came to Astralis. So outside of Astralis, actually quite dangerous on nuke, and that is certainly the map that I think Fnatic is going to have to ban, is going to be nuke, because they have to respect the fact that Liquid can play nuke outside of Astralis games. So that's probably going to be Fnatic's ban. And then for Liquid, I'm not really sure. I think they want to take Overpass off the board probably just because they don't really play it very much and they know Fnatic are capable. So those are my first ban predictions if I had to guess.
Yeah, sounds about right. I think as well. I mean, if you're Liquid, even if you're Fnatic, I think to a certain degree, the way I would approach it would be an event like this, you come in and you test some maps that you want to add into your pool that you're trying to develop for the major, right? So it wouldn't surprise me to see some kind of a pocket pick, because it's like, no, you know, we really wanted to strengthen our Overpass, for instance. Heading into the major, if you're Team Liquid, why not maybe try and play it a little bit? You know, and obviously you want to go deep and you want to win this tournament, you want to lift the trophy to start the year, but I think the prize is the major right now. That is like the first real big obstacle in this year. So you're looking at that and you're saying we have to kind of approach this. Yes, it's a tournament. Yes, it's an important game, but what are we learning for the major, which is the most important thing we're going to have in the next 2 months?
And I think the picks, to get into that portion of it, I think that Liquid, it's very obvious that you're probably either going to go with like a Comfort on Inferno, which we know is their bread and butter, or Cash. I think Cash is actually going to be the pick in this series, just simply because they haven't lost it.
On his monitor while he was warming up?
Is it? Was it on there? I swear to God, I swear I didn't see it. I swear, no, I didn't.
We're going to get you an Oscar for that one.
No, I think that the reason why Cash is the pick for Liquid is because they've only lost it once since May of last year. Like, they have been super dominant on Cash. They've beaten, Mouse Sports, Made in Brazil multiple multiple times. Like, that is the map that, you know, Astralis would usually take out against Liquid, or, I mean, I guess in general they took out Cash quite a lot. So I think that that's where Liquid's going to go. And also, the thing about Cash, since we're talking about it, that's the map where I feel like the least amount of adjustments had to have been made, because Stewie likes playing Taco Spot and Squeaky Door on T side, so I don't think their T side's going to have to change a whole hell of a lot, which means great stability, means you, even if you have limited practice coming into this event, everyone should have the kind of that muscle memory and that comfort playing the map, so I think that that's super helpful. And also, I mean, Fnatic has looked good on it in the games they've played, but they haven't played it very much, so it's not like you have to be seriously worried about, you know, Fnatic's play on the map.
I would really like to see Liquid start playing and picking Train a little bit more, because that's a map that they showed like really big hesitance to ever pick against Astralis in those series. They were always willing to play Nuke over and over again despite some of the losses and the difficulties. I think Train is a map that if they can develop that, then it would be a little bit more, I think it would provide a little bit more options for them in certain map vetoes that could help them at future events and in series. So I would love to see them kind of work on that map, especially because they have the players for it. They have great players with aim in the open spaces.
I mean, the thing about too is because of the fact that people that make the sections, and now we've been working together as a lot. It's an easier time to get
I think more so than any other team, though, like the loss of Zeus as a coach for Team Liquid, I'm worried that could hurt more than people expect it to. Because I think Zeus played a huge role in the attitude and the mindset in keeping this team focused. And I know Naf had a comment during an interview where he said it wasn't necessarily super impactful in some ways, which was surprising for me. But either way, I think I have a great amount of respect for Zeus as a coach. And Adren stepping in, you touched on it, he is going to be a little bit more of a tactical leader. The nice thing about Adren, if you think back the years to when he was actually playing in this Liquid team, he was the in-game leader where it felt like he knew what to do, but he wasn't always able to read the situation perfectly inside the server, which is a very difficult thing to do. But as a coach, he can have great impact in that way. He's going to be phenomenal for the strategic side, but he needs to, I think he's going to spend some growing pains as a coach of having to manage the personalities, of having to manage the players.
I mean, the good thing is he has played alongside every player on that stage set for Stewie 2K at some point in time in his career, particularly Elysia and Nitro. He spent a lot of time playing with those two players. And really, when you look at a lot of interviews that Nitro and Elysia have done, they really do credit Adren a lot for kind of helping them learn the basics of the game, like the foundational play, like, you know, the fundamentals, I think, are really kind of coached into them by someone like Adren, who did kind of handhold them the first couple of years of their professional career. And it's not like I'm trying to say Adren is responsible for their success all in all, but I think he certainly contributed to their understanding of the game at an early point where we talk about this all the time, like, do we have people to pass the torch that are veterans in the scene that can kind of help bring up that young class? And I really feel like Adren was responsible for bringing up that class of player that included people like Elysia and Nitro.
I don't think he gets enough credit for his tenure in CS for what he was able to do, because people look at him and like, oh, they only really remember him as
source player. He's a source player.
Yeah,
so, you know.
But people only really remember like his time with Liquid, and then they look at Mythic. But if you really go back and you look at that source record, there is something to be said about that.
He was like, his teams won like every single source tournament there was in North America for like 6 years. It was some kind of a crazy run. So yeah, and I mean, there's obviously the games change from version to version, but the fundamentals and the way you approach the game and play the game they all stayed the same. So I mean, he's got plenty of knowledge to pass on, and I wouldn't doubt in the world that he gave Elysia and Nitro a lot of really good information to build off and kind of learn how to play the game a little bit better.
I mean, he played like 26, I think, straight seasons of Invite, which is absolutely insane.
So those are the exact bans we called. So that's that. So now it's picks. I wonder what Fnatic will pick. We are talking about Liquid picking Cash. Oh, they actually do pick Train. Oh, that was
hold on.
I'm not sure this graphic is set up for a message ban.
Yeah, that's what maybe those are. I think these are probably the bans, though.
Okay. All right. So they did two bans and then. Okay, 2 bans and then picks, maybe. I don't know.
So I'm going to guess that Liquid picked Cash, Fnatic picked Mirage, and Dust used their map. That's my...
I would guess that Fnatic picks Cash and Team Liquid picks Dust 2, and then the middle one is the third map. But it doesn't matter. Either way, we got our series. I think Cash is going to be the first map, which is pretty cool to watch. And the crowd's apparently loving it.
Yeah, apparently. I think they can get a little louder. Louder! Oh, what is this?
Gotta keep it going. They're doing it.
There you go. There you go. You really can't say enough about that. This is a small venue. This is a smaller crowd, but it's louder than some of the larger venues I've been in because it's so concentrated.
Compact, yeah, it's gonna be wild. It's gonna be good times in here.
So now we know the maps, and we know the teams. Are we prepared to make any kind of predictions?
Yeah, I mean, how can you not pick Liquid? I mean, the success they had last year, I think a lot of people even overlook how good they really were just because of all the, losses to Astralis and the upset to Mousesports at New York and the couple of times that Energy picked them off in a couple of tournaments. But, outside of those few occasions, this team constantly beat Navi, constantly beat Made in Brazil, went toe-to-toe with FaZe and Mousesports, pretty well. And they accomplished a lot, even though they just didn't get the titles and they didn't get the wins over Astralis. And yeah, they made a pretty substantial change, even though it's only one player being swapped. But I just think that the foundation of that team is way too strong to lose a best of 3 to Fnatic, despite the fact they did in Chicago. That's the only thing against them, I think. I think everything else is in favor of Liquid.
Yeah, I'm not going to go away from Liquid in this one. It doesn't even necessarily matter. I'm just really excited to see them play with this lineup and see what their early returns on some of these changes will be. I think the Fnatic, if we see the Fnatic that was in here this morning, you can have some competitive maps in this series. I don't think it's going to be a blowout unless we see maybe the sluggish Fnatic that got destroyed by Cloud9 yesterday. But if we get the Fnatic of this morning, I think this can be a close series with some really interesting results. But I'm going to go Team Liquid, just to make sure that's clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we gonna?
Hell yeah.
Are we gonna see 3 maps?
No.
No, it's going to be 2-0.
2-0 Liquid.
Is it going to be a bad blowout?
Because, the second map is Mirage, and that's a map that Liquid is still quite capable on, even though it is a strong one for Fnatic. So it's not like Fnatic gained a huge edge with Mirage being the second map.
Well, I don't see the players on stage right now, so I think we are going to throw things to a very quick break.
It's not a good sign, Bob.
That's not a good sign. So I think we're going to throw things... we got Sue on stage ready for an interview. There we go.
That's something new.
Yeah, we do have Sue on stage. I forgot Sue was even here at this point. Sue's on stage with an interview with both teams. Go ahead and take it.
Thank you very much, guys. We started with 8 teams from all around the world, and finally we are down to just 4. For our first semifinal match of the day, it is going to be North America taking on Sweden. Please welcome on stage, it is Team Liquid and Fnatic.
Here we go. This is the semi-final, the first semi-final of today. I'm DDK, of course. I'm joined by Scriv. This is the iBUYPOWER Masters, and this is going to be a very exciting one. I am so stoked for the 3 maps we got.
Yeah, dude, I'm so looking forward to this one. 2 great teams coming into this. We've not seen them play off a great deal in recent history, but they've had some pretty good runs at this tournament. Fnatic kind of coming back up against Cloud9 earlier on after a pretty heavy defeat yesterday. So I think they're going to be raring to go in this.
Yeah, and we start off, with that Dust 2 pick. That's going to be really interesting. It can be very scrappy, very T-sided. A lot of teams struggle with understanding how to do that long control. That tends to be a make or break for a lot of teams. But with the firepower on both sides, it's going to make this really fun, I think. Just seeing Stewie on Team Liquid, I think is such an interesting change of pace that is possible. And that's the kind of firepower that you do need when Fnatic are firing off, because this is a map that's really going to be running through the Swedish veins.
Yeah, for sure. And as you can hear, the crowd supporting Liquid, definitely that North American side. I think it's going to be important for Fnatic to get off to a good start here, because it's very easy to get a little bit disheartened if things start going wrong. And obviously they're doing their little team talk. They're going to hear that crowd is in support of the North American team. So it'll be interesting to see. But like you say, Dust 2, those individuals, and they really have a good opportunity to run rampant. The AWPers especially can really take control of the game if they're given the opportunity. So it's going to be a really interesting one over on Dust 2, I think.
Yeah, and these are 2 teams as well, which we don't exactly know what 2019 is going to look for them just yet. There's a lot of question marks in the air. Big change to Team Liquid, one of the very most successful teams coming out of last year, going with that roster change. You got Fnatic vying to regain that former glory that they once had. I think Brolan is such a young player, a talent that's been plucked from the Swedish scene. He's been doing an incredible job so far in the lineup, and I'm really excited to see, when we go into this make or break matchup, where this one's going to go. And I think it's so hard to predict. to know what to expect from either team at this point is going to be, I mean, it's going to be a journey of learning for all of us.
Right, I think there's a lot of learning, especially over on that Liquid side. Obviously, recently changing Stewie and Adren on the coaching role. We've not seen a great deal of them like on camera in game because they've been having their games off stream. So it's going to be pretty interesting, like for us and for the crowd and everybody, to actually see how Stewie fits in. Maybe does like a little bit of a cheeky AWP, maybe on Dust 2. They're going to let him run with that for a little while rather than Nitro. You know, it'd be interesting to see how things are going to pan out here. Starting off for Liquid, and I think the choice of sides is really going to make a difference here. It'll be interesting to see who ends up, like you say, on that T side, can really just take control, as they can in some games, but Dust 2 seems to be a map where 5-6 rounds in a row, all of a sudden you've got that extremely strong economy, and you just get rocking over on the T side.
One thing I think that gets brought into the mix as well, which could play into Dust 2, is that, you know, the AWP factor. You know, you've got, of course, you know, Tucker's gone, but Stewie is incredible if he wants to pick up the AWP. He wants to get that. If they want to get those double AWPs going, they can do that. And Stewie does add that aggressive AWPer into the mix if that's something that they want to go with. Of course, you know, Fnatic, a team that's always going to be good and very handy with those AWP. So I'm really looking forward to seeing some quad AWP situations.
Yeah,
I think that'd be really, really interesting from both of these teams. But Dust 2, you know, still the new version of the map, and we haven't seen. I think there's still a lot of innovation that, you know, we're still waiting to see, and you know, the meta still. I think we're waiting to see that change a lot more as time goes on. Initially, again, as I mentioned, it was all about figuring out long. It seemed like the CT side was very difficult to play. It was very hard to hold on to position, but teams are starting to figure it out over time. Astralis, you know, of course, obviously one of the first teams to really start understanding how that dynamic works.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a little bit like the minor people have been speaking out how Dust 2 maybe does have a few issues still that need ironing out on the team end, maybe on the map itself, some changes here and there. So it is a really difficult one to predict going into it, but I think it makes for some really fun Counter-Strike. Obviously, coming into the first map of the first semi-final of today, it's going to be really, really fun to see what these teams have got prepared.
Absolutely. Do you have any particular things you're looking forward to seeing from these two teams?
You know, I think the AWP play is going to be really interesting because I think, like we've mentioned, so Stewie likes a bit of an AWP, but the man on camera just a second ago, Naf as well. I remember an event that I did over in Malta. He was really loving that AWP there, you know, and just picking it up every now and then. So if things start to go well, it can be very difficult, I think, for the opposition to get in against Liquid because they just have a very versatile lineup. They're very hard to predict. The one thing about Astralis is like they're so regimented in their roles. You know what they're going to do, it's just they do it so well. Whereas Liquid, I feel, for me, has a little bit more of an unpredictable factor about where they're going to put certain players or what weapons certain players are going to be on. And it kind of it can allow them to change things up if it's not working, or if it is working, it allows them to change so that teams can't get a read on them. And I think, for me, they are kind of a little bit more interested. Like, Astralis just wrecking everybody, right? But Liquid are really, really cool to watch and see how they adapt to certain people. And now, again, Stewie coming in is really going to change things because he's a very vocal, a very forward kind of player. Last night, you know, they were playing their game against Ghost to make it here today. And they were up on the kind of practice balcony, as it were, doing their game. And Stewie was super, super vocal, which I don't think helped Ghost a great deal, bless him. It was kind of disheartening a little bit to hear him screaming. But yeah, I think it'll be really good for Stewie to come in here and just not take charge, but be another voice of reason or of control, so to speak.
I'm waiting also to see if we're going to see more of these, you know, scoped shenanigans. Just, you know, the meta obviously shifting that way. I mean, I've been playing a lot recently, and the AWP just feels really good. The AWP feels great. Obviously, you know, once you start getting, you know, comfortable with it, this is a map where it's going to work out really well if that's going to be the choice you're going to go for, because you can get there's certain angles, like headshot angles, which become like so much easier to deal with when it comes to like trying to pick into bomb sites. If you're a T side, you got that one bullet kill potential in that Krieg. You know, when it comes to, let's say you want to go for that pick towards B, those headshot angles suddenly become a lot easier by the big box or at the back of plateau, you know, trying to peek into the A site as well. It is actually like a pretty big difference, I think, when it comes to the ease of handling those duels when you have these scoped weapons. So I'm looking to see if this could be one of those games which really starts to show us, if the players decide to go for it, how strong that can be and how it can change the way that we're going to see people playing positions defensively. Yeah, for sure. I mean, on the CT side, it's really interesting to look into. Some rounds you're only seeing like one M4 come out these days because players are now getting more and more comfortable with that org, learning spray patterns and things like that. But I think on the other side of things, you have that Krieg, like you mentioned, and a player that really picked that up kind of straight away and has, in a way, pioneered it is Elige over on Liquid, and he's been performing really, really well on the Krieg. And
There's a few other players, dotted about that, of course, had tried using it. But for me, he seems to be one of the better ones and is really, really comfortable on that weapon. And it's only $50 more than the AK, so it doesn't really hit your economy very much. So it does kind of allow you, again, that kind of versatility to move things around and put players in different positions. But yeah, I think the kind of scoped weapon meta, like we're seeing, obviously scouts have been in for a while and they're quite effective. But it is, I think it was Dust yesterday in the green room, he was saying it's just essentially a better version of the scout. You use it in very similar ways over on that CT side, and it can really tear through opponents if, like you say, positionally you can put yourself in a good spot, and suddenly you pick up 2 or 3 kills and can dip away quite easily because you've got that heavy range advantage. You know exactly where your bullets are going.
Yeah, it really is a game changer. I know when I was casting Mirage yesterday with Jason, we were talking about how uncomfortable as a CT it can feel to stand on triple, and just you feel very vulnerable towards connector because they can take the Ts can take these headshot angles on you, just peeking below those steps, and it just feels awkward. But with the scope and just like that dot, it suddenly feels a lot easier to handle. So that'll be very interesting to see how that dynamic plays off. And I'm also curious to see what the set piece game is going to look like for these two teams. Obviously, two teams that have been working very hard. Obviously, Stewie's just jumped into the system here for Team Liquid, which must be difficult because Zeus is a guy obviously that was leading Team Liquid, leading the way in that sense, and building that structure, building the coordination on that team for quite some time. To then have a new player come in and to then lose your coach who kind of created that system, that's going to make things a little bit more awkward. But Stewie, he's a veteran at this point, despite being so young. He's slotted in really well. He was telling me how the communication element is so refreshing after having a situation where obviously it wasn't perfect on MIBR previously. It was okay, it was serviceable, but now he's among people that speak his native tongue, and that's just feels more comfortable. And obviously there's a lot of experience he can take from his time in MIBR, which I think has made him a much more versatile player as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think it'd be really interesting to see, again, giving him that certain area of freedom. Fallen is a much more vocal and stronger in-game leading presence. So, like you say, coming in, there's not only the better communication, but he can kind of speak up and say, right, I want to go here this round. I've got a spawn to do this round. So it allows him a little bit more freedom. And I think for me, watching Stewie, over the past kind of year and a half as he's reached this incredible peak, I think when he has that freedom, he's a much better performer. When he's kind of restricted in a sense, it does kind of show, and he wants to edge and get forward. There are a lot of players around, especially on that CT side, where if you put them as like an anchor or in a solid B defender position, generally they can kind of struggle because they get a little bit too overzealous because it's just like in their nature to be aggressive. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that was an element, a facet of Stewie that I was missing. Going on to MIBR previously, you've got Fur. He's there. That's kind of the role that Stewie was really doing, having that ultimate freedom as well. And also, bringing Tarek into the mix, that's something that Tarek is also a player that can be very aggressive. Tarek is a versatile player, but it did seem like the styles weren't quite mixed well in the way that you'd like to see them to really maximize the potential of each and every player on the team. However, one thing to also consider there is what they did lose Team Liquid. Obviously, Taco is a very reliable player, someone that's very team-oriented. He's a great, positive guy. Like, he's really, on the comms, for example, he's going to be able to help keep that morale high. He's always going to be a positive figure in that team, making sure that, emotionally things stay in check. And, Stewie is a completely different character in many senses. Obviously, I wouldn't say that that's a weakness of his per se, but it's not one of the focal points that you look at him and think that's the strength of this guy. When we bring him on the team, we can expect that to be something to look forward to. And Stewie, again, more aggressive, talking more of a defensive kind of support play. Can kind of do anything, but that's kind of the roles that he's in. So I'm curious how this is going to be shifted around again, especially considering the fact that Zeus is now left the ship and they've got Adren on board instead. And it's going to be interesting. Adren's first experience as a coach, something that he said he'd been thinking about for a while, but hadn't really, wasn't ready to pull the trigger on it. But the timing kind of worked out, got the offer, and decided to go for it. Yeah, obviously already played with the Liquid boys way back when. Would have been a very different lineup, but he knows a few of the players. He knows the organization well. He knows where he's at, and he kind of knows the guys more casually, I suppose, from FPL and Rankcast, all that sort of stuff. But it will be interesting to see as a solid former pro, like what kind of role he brings in and what kind of different dynamic to Zeus that he brings in. Obviously, it's very difficult to kind of comment on at this point because it is still a recent addition. But meanwhile, over on the other side, we've been talking about all these changes on the Liquid team. Fnatic have a lot more consistency, I feel, in their lineup. Alongside Astralis at this kind of event and the teams that are left, they seem to be, you know, the most familiar with each other at this point. And they were looking good earlier today. You know, it was a little bit rough yesterday. Maybe the overpass, it's a map that they're kind of like good on, but don't play a great deal. So difficult to call at that point whether you want to go for it. You know, the best of ones can be harsh at times. But for me, it was their CT side that really kind of let them down. So maybe that's something that they need to work on, and maybe that's why Dust2 is the first pick, because you know that T side is going to really help them to get off to a flying start. But yeah, I think the young talent over on that Fnatic side, definitely hungry, definitely feeling it, and Crim's having a little bit of like the resurgence as that solid, consistent player again is really good for them, and they're a good mix of experience and new blood to hopefully mix together and, you know, come out on top of a tournament like this. I feel like a top 4 finish for them is good, but they could get a little bit further if they are successful here in this best of 3. It's definitely possible. I think it's kind of hard to call for this one. You know, Liquid look really good a lot of the time, but it depends on how Stewie fits in and where things go.
Yeah, they're always dangerous. Always dangerous. So much experience, so much skill. And it was interesting because earlier we had Exist saying in the interview, we just had to play our game. That's kind of like really, we got kind of taken away from that a little bit. We just to get back into that groove. And to me, I read that as just they need to find that flow, that comfort zone of just getting into the motions. And that's more of an emotional type response where everything's kind of clicking and feeling good. You can't pinpoint exactly why, but we are about to go into the first semi-final here at the iBUYPOWER Masters, brought to you by Intel Optane and LG Ultra Gear. Here we go, Fnatic CD side on Cash, Liquid on the T side.
It's certainly interesting. I think it might be the other way around from the UI on the top, actually, if you look along the sides there.
I'm a liar.
So a little bit misleading, but classic T-side pistol strat coming up here. 3 players over the boost, getting that easy mid control, not really being contested. Lee shows his face, takes a hell of a lot of damage. That's that Kit player as well. Important to keep him alive, at least for a little while, and they're going to go chasing through connector here, managing to take down Nap and Elige. Roland leading the way. Fnatic tearing through this pistol right now. Very little damage traded, and it's all down to Nitro on a 1-on-5.
That's awesome. You don't every day see that Cash T pistol where you just barrel through the connector position, split up the defense, and just catch people left and right. And you got to hit those shots. Nitro is going to do it, but perhaps it's a little bit too late for Liquid in this round.
I mean, not taking any damage, so he could definitely save. Oh, he could definitely save the armor. Spoke too soon, of course. And the reboost from the other side. But yeah, a clean round from Fnatic. This is going to get a little bit confusing over at the top there, of course, because it is Fnatic on that T side. So hopefully you guys can keep up with that. We'll definitely try. But yeah, I mean, like you say, it's kind of a tried and tested, pretty classic. Maybe not seen at the higher up levels, but sort of your tier 3, tier 2 teams like to go for that on a pistol because it's just very easy to pull off. And then it gives you a lot of options to maybe move towards B or move towards through connector towards A. But yeah, it appears we've had a bit of a screen freeze. Can still hear sounds.
Oh, there we go. Oh,
there we go. We're back. One tapping away.
Didn't miss a thing. We go for that mid take. Liquid, Fnatic. We'll get that fixed on top ASAP. I'm being confused here. But indeed, Twist will be able to help his team secure middle and the split onto B. Very standard stuff coming out here from Fnatic to play this anti-eco. And you can see that Fnatic, Liquid, they've invested some money, but not all of it. And they're going to hold on to what they can to bring it into the next round because they'll be going for that double save. And the Deagles, very dangerous at this level of play. Very, very dangerous indeed. And Elige is demonstrating exactly why he'll be able to steal away an AK-47 into the next round. Now, if they can maybe get another gun, there is a world where they can say, hey, let's just fall by here. Let's fall by. Let's do something crazy. And if they had the firepower to back it up, then that's a decision they could make. And that could really throw off Fnatic.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a bit of an opportunity here. JW on 6 HP. Roland on 1. About to cross around the corner. A little bit of a shoulder peek. Spots out Nitro. Doesn't really want to go for it, but sure, they take the round. You need to be very careful here. I guess Nitro not really wanting to push in. It's still doable, right? They have a fair amount of money on a few of the players. Move that scout across to Stewie, yeah, who is like the poorest of them all. They might just go for it. I think they're going to maybe soft buy around the AK. That's fair enough. I mean, it's sort of Deagles could win this for us and the Scout, but if not, we'll get a full buyout next round clean enough.
And the really interesting thing here is, how do they decide to use a leash? Do they want to use him defensively, or do they want to just go for a huge risk if they can get an early kill and then just play the round from there? That could be quite fun to witness, but it also depends on how they anticipate their opponents to play this round, knowing that an AK-47 was stolen away. That's very nice, though. Exist will get a pick towards Checkers, and that will alleviate some of the stress here for Fnatic early in this round.
Ooh, bit of a fluff Molotov there in towards middle, but it's looking good for Fnatic, moving in towards B slowly but surely. Exist does need to be careful. Getting slightly overwhelmed. Naf on the 5-7. Not a gun you see too often these days, but I think being picked back up recently, you know, the changes and whatnot, and certainly deadly at that headshot angle. And because they were floating around B, Fnatic now wanting the A site. Nitro in behind, and Twist on this AK here, picks up a 2K from Carr, goes completely unchecked. He's still got that armor available. JW on 34 HP and Exist only on 11. This is not looking good right now for Fnatic.
They have time at least. There is a workable amount of time on the clock, but the headshots will fall the way of Liquid once again. Twist doing remarkable work there. And as you said, an unchecked position towards Carr, and that's all Twist needs to get the double, and now things look very, very bad here for Fnatic. JW doing his best to stay alive. 30 seconds to go. He does feel the presence behind him. He knows someone's lurking somewhere. He's trying to be safe. Good angle to take out Naf, but he's going to move closer to the wall now as Naf will get the advantage. He'll finish it off. An AK upgrade for him. It looks like Nitro can find himself a Krieg as well. This has gone perfectly for Liquid.
Yeah, look at the money right now. So good for them. They can buy up here, opting not to go for the AWP, it would appear, you know, just, again, trying to bonus as much as they possibly can with it. But yeah, that player, you know, Twists at Carr, it was kind of, rather than holding the direct highway cross, he was just holding that last sort of gap as they move across to the site. So they maybe already checked Carr, but not well enough type deal, and obviously he capitalizes on it, really. Pretty much the linchpin of that round. Nade goes in, followed by a spray. Tiny bit of damage. They are stacking over towards B on the back of the simple default nades.
By drip goes to the white peak, and that is going to be a fast entry for Fnatic. That is exactly what they needed. Crim's now looking to move in through middle, taken out by Elige. Big pick off there to allow Liquid to start to try to just gain some control towards that flank. Coordinate and attack in. They've got lots of utility here to toss in. Still 2 incendiaries remaining after that one. So they have a lot of opportunity here to get in. And you can see Naf just goes for it. It's not going to wait around at all.
Yeah, it takes down JW, makes this round a little bit more doable. That drops one of those stronger weapons, and everybody else again being tagged up. Elige comes in and picks up all 3. The flash is perfect into Checkers, but a great reaction on the player in Sunroom. That'll be the defuse coming through. Liquid with the second round. It looked a little bit dicey on that initial B hit. You know, Stewie going for the wide, dry peak is risky, but I suppose he gets that information, and eventually they are able to clean things up with that superior weaponry, that extra utility that you talked about.
This could not really be a better start for Liquid. I mean, obviously, you never like to lose the pistol round, but if you can answer back in this way, it actually puts you so far ahead economically, it becomes kind of optimal. And 5 deeks there for Fnatic to play with, and they're going to be looking for some damage here. Some Juans, we'll see if they can find any aggression into lockers, into the A main position, and that's a smart move, but Crim's through the metal shutter. Dirty stuff there.
That is nasty. Knows those angles. Again, maybe a little bit of early over-aggression from Liquid. Costs them in the first few moments of the round. It's now a case of recovering things back once again, but I think it is definitely doable here. No armor available, really, just the one smoke. We'll just play it calmly, land the shots as they are so far, and it will be their round to take.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Oh.
Side freeze again. Oh, and well, we'll see if we can get that resolved quickly, but it is pretty good recovery in that round from the likes of Team Liquid. That Deagle shot was rather stunning though from Crim, so I wonder what the lineup looked like for that.
Pretty spicy stuff. But, yeah, I mean, I think, like you say, it's a really good start for them so far. The point that they're at sounds like maybe we're back into things. Yeah, the point that we're at, I think, don't lose any more rifles, and you pretty much got the perfect scenario. Twist gets a little bit unlucky because he thought he'd escaped, right? But you can't predict a wallbang like that at the end of the day. Still that smoke available for Exist, but the bomb going down in middle, I think, pretty much ends all hope. You know, the smoke at CT could have been a bit of a difference maker here. Oh, that is pretty damn close. And eventually, Stewie lands the final blow. 3-2 now as Liquid take the lead relatively cleanly again. Another sort of anti-eco round that goes very well for them.
It was really smart for them in a round where they know that the other team at best has a half buy to take away lockers, because it's actually very safe. If you know they don't have much utility, you can get a good timing there. You can make a very safe entry, and once you have that forward position, you've got loads of information, which really helps you out when you're playing a team like Fnatic. It doesn't matter what they have; they can always be dangerous. And if you were to say the other option for information would be to push towards mid or towards B main as well, and those two options are, I think, less successful, and the rush timings are a bit better for the T side, so you could get caught off. So Team Liquid, again, just showing us how to take every edge possible in a game of Counter-Strike.
Yeah, it's sort of safe risks, as it were. Not too much risk associated. Still a little bit, Twist going down there, but early on, it's not the end of the world, and they recover it back well. I think they do a good job with that, not trying too hard to overcompensate for a lost player. Again, getting cheekily aggressive in towards A main. No flash used, and it might just have cost them, but the peek in from Twists, and the double spray down, of course. So very well done. So he'll eventually get himself traded back by, I suppose, the counterpart on the other side of things, but a 3-on-3. Fnatic and Liquid looking pretty much on par so far.
And they've got to have some good idea about Crims. I mean, they must have heard that door open. Nitro is in position. He sees it's open, so they know exactly what's up here. Crims could be lurking out the site, but Nitro does have control around that area, so he can call that to his teammates. But they should surely be wary of Forklift and of this boost position as well. So good angle there from Nitro, covering all his bases. And Fnatic, now they've managed to get a 3v3 out of this, despite Twist's good work there towards the lockers, and now time is of the essence, and Fnatic will start to make their way forward, but Naf will catch Exist moving through mid. That's a big pickup. Now Fnatic have to force their hand into A.
Yeah, and the single-pronged attack is not really going to be ideal here. It's very easily telegraphed. Twist going to cheekily try and get the bomb down, but, I mean, Nitro not even needed there. He was that last port of call. Once again, Liquid just capitalizing perfectly off of taking down that flank. Things not really working out for Fnatic in the end. They do well on the trades, but kind of the mind games go the way of Liquid in the end.
Back to the Deeks. This time, they'll have some armors behind it as well, but Liquid are really hitting a great flow here on the CT side. Some very nicely timed aggressions, good individual clutches at certain points, and Twist, he's been stepping up straight away, making himself known. Naf playing the drip position, back of checkers. Nice angle there. Obviously has a teammate on the bomb side to work off of. That's Stewie. All the nades in the world. And here they go, going for that push. Stewie will be spotted out, traded out, but the spray is in from Naf, and it's pretty damn good.
So far, he's looking for a third, though. 11 bullets remaining, tagging up Exist just a little bit. Now his life is in the balance. JW sways it in favor of Fnatic, trying to return the wall bang there. The only one remaining now picks up an AUG with no ammo. I'm pretty sure they're aware that this bomb is down as well on the Liquid side of things. At best, I think there's going to be a tiny bit more economic damage done, but the aim punch a little bit too much in the end. Nitro to secure things. Liquid looking pretty dominant here once they got their foot on the gas, so to speak. They really have not let off.
I feel bad for JW, man, picking up that empty AUG. Feels bad.
Certainly do.
5-2 now for Liquids as they continue to look very good. Nothing really going all that wrong for them at this point. Double orbs will come out ahead of time. It's going to be really interesting to see this dynamic. We've got 3 players in mid early here for them. And Fnatic just playing a default there. Stewie in a forward position. Great flick. This is what we're talking about. That aggressive AWP. 4 HP though. Needs some support. He'll get traded out. A quick 4 versus 4 here for Fnatic. That's actually a big a really big opportunity for them. They got loads of time to play this with.
Yeah, and it gives them a lot of map control as well. They've kind of drawn attention towards B. There's only one player directly on that A site, so some well-placed shots and some well-placed nades could certainly secure them at least the bomb plant, some pretty decent post-plant positions. They're really taking the passive retake setup by the looks of things. Twist dropping back with that AWP towards Car, a little bit of an off angle if you catch it there on the minimap. JW eventually is going to meet him, I think, here, playing the contact style. AWP slowly but surely, but just as he peeks around, Twist is able to find him. That off angle a little bit too nasty in the end. The crouching knees of JW showing through. Smoke over towards Car would be ideal, but again, it's not quite covering that forklift cross. There's still more and more opportunities for Twist. Meanwhile, Elige comes through from Highway, twists him with another, and now it is just Twist over on the Swedish side to try and find 4. Not looking good at this point in time, unfortunately. Just the one smoke takes down Nitro. They do need to be careful not to give him these fights, because he's certainly going to be finding them.
That's the bomb. He managed to get it in the end, but he's just coming in from the lockers. And there's the fire, forcing him out. Nowhere to run. Very nicely done from Team Liquid once again, closing it down. I really enjoyed that position that Twist took, just as you mentioned, like covering that cross to forklift. And that really did the job. Just holding, finding those extra guns, picking up everything they can.
Brilliant. Not really playing off the crowd there for sure. But yeah, I mean, so far, Liquid, the thing is, these rounds have been maybe Fnatic get a bomb plant or they get a little bit of control on a site. But for the most part, I mean, it'd be interesting to see maybe from the scoreboard. For the most part, they've been surviving with that kind of bare minimum of 3 to allow them to keep building up the economy. So I think it's going to take a few rounds, one from Fnatic, to really break down Liquid here. And there's always that chance of a reset, you know, so I feel like this is a timeout coming through from Fnatic to talk things over, because that momentum right now from Liquid is just insanely high.
It is looking so smooth. Pretty much everybody on the team is just looking like they're just a well-oiled machine at this point. All the cogs turning just exactly how they should be. Haven't really seen any hiccups, honestly, so far from them. The double orbs have been looking good. What do Fnatic have in the bag to try to break this? We've seen some defaults. We've seen some attempts at fast plays, but that seems to be, every time they try that, they seem to run into Liquid being slightly aggressive as well. And so Fnatic still looking to find the answer.
And there it is, CT-sided CS. In 2019, not a single M4 on the board. How things have changed over the past few months. But that double up setup, again, it switches hands. You know, there's still the potential that Nitro would pull it out somewhere as well. And just very, very different styles. Twist in the previous round with that nasty little off angle, reading his opponent and how he likes to play. Whereas Stewie with the aggressive style. One AWP on either side is deadly. It's so hard to deal with. Oh, but that is pretty nasty through the smoke. JW almost finding another, you know. He survives on 1 HP, but he had the lineup on Nitro for sure. 5 versus 4, but could very quickly swing as it is. A lot of nade damage done early on, and obviously that fight that JW has taken leaves him with the 1 point of health.
Very nice positions from Elige as he backs out of middle. 45 seconds left. You have 4 players on the CT side. You don't have to try to go too aggressive. He'll go for a peek, finds an opportunity, and he'll absolutely take it. Brolan will hit the ground as only 3 now remain for Fnatic, as they are starting to be very pressed for time and they have to make some hard decisions, and they have decided to go in towards this B bomb site. And there's the cross smoke. Lovely stuff. And there's blocking off the AWPer, and in they go. Indeed. Or try at least.
Well, Elige takes down that kind of first peak from Exist. They're going to have to try and deal with him. They're not afraid to allow them the control here again. You know, Liquid don't mind letting that bomb go down. At this point, we're just watching the cross. I think Elige almost secures the round. JW left on 1 HP, not enough time. And nah! Surely has to be the no-scope. The quick reaction from Headshot to take down JW. I mean, that's just salt in the wound at that point, but what a shot coming in from him.
That was nasty. That was nasty. Sometimes it's actually almost better to watch it from the POV of the victim.
Yeah.
Because it just makes it look so additionally ridiculous. Like this, he was just, what was that, like just a 90-degree, just crouched, just awkward. Very nicely done. 7 rounds for Team Liquid, and they are looking like it's going to be, that this could be like an incredible half for them. Fnatic still yet to find anything with consistency, and Naf makes it worse. Quick little cheeky peek through in towards A main. He's going to find himself a lovely reward. Twist is down, and Fnatic are left a bit sore.
Yeah, feeling it after the previous round. Thought he'd go for another cheeky one. Nice bit of utility usage here to hold off that push at least for a little while, or make them all come in from the same angle. Crims with the 1D gets Nitro and Elige though on the Orgs, cleaning things up. Brolan has retrieved an AWP, but at what cost? The 1 versus 4, and it doesn't even begin to happen as Nitro will find him easily enough. An 8th round on the board. That was another anti-eco situation, but once again, it is so dominant.
Yeah, Liquid's spanking all the bottoms at the moment, and I don't know if Fnatic can find a way back in this one at this point. Again, just Liquid, it's just, they're not going too crazy with the aggressions, but it's just enough to really throw Fnatic off balance and put them in spots where they have to maybe change their plan or commit in a spot where now Liquid know what's happening, and they have a disadvantage if they commit to it still. So it's such a difficult position that Fnatic consistently find themselves in. And they're going for a very fast mid-take here. Into Elige with the Orky speed. Fantastic support from Nitro, the AK-47. The flashes are good, but just not good enough. Great team play in the middle. Liquid defend wonderfully.
You take down one. And there is a second. Ooh, Naf just spots the foot just in time. Now Stewie going to be aware of it. They're on either side of the map here. A little bit of a mess. They both go down at the same time, however. JW does bring one with him, but once again, surviving with that bare minimum of 3. The money is insane right now for Team Liquid. Like I say, it's going to take a fair few rounds for Fnatic to break this down. I just don't really see it happening at this point. They look so comfortable here on Cash. Indeed, I don't even think they need all that great support, but it is sounding really good from the crowd so far. Hot damn. I don't know about you, Dan, but I certainly was not expecting it to be this crazy from Liquid.
Yeah, home team favorite, finding some great form here today against Fnatic. And Fnatic, you know, they're a team where we know they're going to have some incredible CT sides themselves, but they need to get, I think, at least 5 rounds on the board here. Team Liquid's, their T sides are going to be looking pretty good despite, you know, getting a new player into the mix. You know, Adren, you know, being new as a coach, you know, I still don't think that there is any reason to really think that Liquid are going to give up such a strong half should they, you know, exceed 10 rounds. So Fnatic, you can see they're taking it really seriously here, trying to get on the same page, figure out what they need to do, and they've decided to go for pistols, utility, 1 AK on JW, some Kevlar, and let's see what they have in mind.
Seems like a fast move towards A. The highway smoke coming in. I believe that's one that Neo worked out time and time ago. Elige peeking in pretty aggressively once again, able to take down one, but immediately traded. Good flashes here from Fnatic, actually. It's Naf from that car position, though, who is doing all the damage. He drops the bomb in such an awkward spot. Twist as yet to be found, and JW with that AK, the only one remaining. Immediate trade from Twist. Again, that fantastic team play coming in. Suppose the one takeaway for Fnatic there is they got it down to 2 players, so it's the closest they've been for a while, but still Liquid continue to dominate.
Yeah, and you can see that Fnatic there, you know, they threw a smoke down instead of going to block the cross for highway and for car, you know, on the toxic barrels and so on. They get the smoke onto, you know, in between the red container and MBK to make sure that they can cut off that team play, those 2 kind of crossfires that Team Liquid rely on, and still Liquid are just there too quickly and just too solid on the defense. It doesn't matter. Not a lot going well for Fnatic here. Stewie getting aggressive once again. On top of the box there as that smoke is down, just in case any Ts were to be lurking, maybe lining up some smokes of their own, and Stewie could be having some action here very soon. 3 players. Ooh. Well, he's got 2 players himself to back up this aggression, though, and he can go the Molotov. Stewie go for it. Naf opens it up. Exist will go down. The trades are out. Stewie is discovered, but the damage is pretty good here. But Fnatic, they come out pretty well.
Yeah, the fundamental trades working pretty effectively. Could have been a bloodbath, but I think it was good for them to move in with a bit of a conservative push rather than just rushing around that corner. It's really what we were expecting a little bit of, and that would have given Stewie that dream 3K, but of course, like I say, they take it a little bit slowly, and kind of deal with the damage, minimal damage. And they're able to play the mind games, walk back towards A. They know that Twist likes to play this angle here with the AWP, the deeper car smoke to make things very difficult for him indeed. He has to move around. No Molotov for default, and jumping up, JW will find him completely scoped in, completely catching him off guard. Bomb going to go down safe. They're still not sure where these remaining 2 players are coming from, but this is the best chance Fnatic have had for some time.
Nitro and Elige looking for that clutch. Nitro now waiting for Elige to arrive at a good timing through A main, and surely they'll be checking this, shouldering the angle. That's some great damage. Oh, the incendiary, that's the master stroke there. That should force him out of position now as they continue to push in. But Nitro will go down. It's up to Elige for the AUG. Can he find it? It's still 1 player unknown. He knows what the next one is. Towards MVK, there's the spray. Goes for the transfer, but Twist now has to be the USP to get him down, but it won't be. Twist holds it. Fnatic pick up another round. They very labored and hard fought one at that, but at least it's 1 more.
It is fairly costly. I think there's going to be maybe 1 or 2 players on slightly weaker weaponry here. Roland going to that UMP so he can get utility. Twists exist as well. Unfortunately not going to get a drop from anyone, so the Galil for him. So not ideal, but it is something. However, on the other side of things, you've got Team Liquid with that possible blessing in disguise round. If they can get the hard reset in here, they could certainly turn this into a 12-3 half. Fnatic need to make it consistent from here on in, and hope that that wasn't just a bit of a fluke in the previous round.
And you know, as you said, in that previous round, it was based off of the fact that Liquid decided to stack 3 players towards B, so that there was this trade situation. And so Fnatic's opportunities have so far come from Liquid making plays, and that's not really where you want to be or how you can find consistency. You want to be the ones taking the initiative and forcing the advantages. So far, even in victory, it feels like Fnatic are still at the mercy of Liquid to some extent. So we'll see if indeed they can find a new way forwards here as they look for the pick into middle. JW is staying out on the boost for quite some time here looking for this. But Liquid will not give it, and it looks like they may have a timing to go for a retake. Let's see if it's good.
There we go, a heavy hit in towards middle from Fnatic, and it gets ripped apart. Liquid, again, with these Orgs, with this team play, it's just such a brick wall that they cannot get past. Twist rubbing salt into the wound as well as he drops that bomb. JW, the initial player over, didn't find anything, and I think it was pretty heavily telegraphed from Fnatic. That one flashbang just kind of gives it away that there's at least someone on boost or looking to come in. And unfortunately, not a single kill, maybe about 30 points of damage onto Nitro, and that was it.
It's so beautiful too, because there is an element of gamble there from Team Liquid whereby they're counting on the timing of Fnatic to get those players into middle, because it can be so strong then if you come in from a couple angles with flashbangs and 3 players and use that Pika's advantage, all of a sudden you can blow it up. But it has to be that enough players are forward enough in middle from the T side. But when it works, it looks like that. It looks absolutely glorious. Speaking of which, it might not look too glorious for Stewie here. In goes the rush, and out goes the rush just as quickly as it came. Oh man, there wasn't even any time to build that one up. Team Liquid decisive on the first half, 12-3.
That is a rough 2-footed kick in the teeth to go into the second half with, unfortunately. Really not great stuff. I don't know, this pistol, sure there's going to be some weight behind it, but it's more about the rifles, I think. It's kind of a given that Fnatic need to take this, but also the first couple rifle rounds need to go their way. Otherwise this first map could be very, very quickly closed out. Definitely not what we were expecting coming into it, but it's been beautiful CS from Liquid. That's kind of the thing. It's very difficult for Fnatic to deal with because it is just so clean from Liquid. It's not like there's been close clutch situations or Fnatic fluffing rounds. It's just Liquid smashing them in that CT side of things.
And here we go into the second half. If you're just joining us here of the first semi-final at the iBUYPOWER Masters, brought to you by Western Digital, Black and CS Money. And it's all on this pistol really for Fnatic. They've got to get off to a good start here. So much pressure on them, and Team Liquid, they have options open to them here. They do not have to necessarily commit towards A, and Fnatic, they're not taking any risks. They've taken some information in B storage. They know that it's likely not a quick B play, but they're still not playing too far forward anywhere.
Yeah, looking to perhaps imitate their opponents a little bit here, Liquid, but a slightly slower way of going about it. They've got a little bit more utility to play with as well. So running the clock down, keeping the pressure on Fnatic. Where are they? Maybe catching off a little bit of aggression. One smoke in towards Z, and I believe one that will go out towards quad fence area. Here we go. The flash in towards middle. Nice little bit of information gain. JW on the edge of the smoke is going to hear things, but not going to see things. Exist trying to play around second smoke, but unfortunately gets taken down. JW in from behind. He does eventually take down Twist, but perhaps too little too late. That could have been the difference maker, but unfortunately not landing the shots cleanly. As the bomb goes down, no kit available immediately, only 2 players to try and retake. They do find the first, but there's still a number of players, and they're in decent post plants. Good crossfire setup once again, and time is not on their side right now. Nitro with the USP retrieved at default makes quick work of Twist. JW peeking into 2, cannot find a single kill, and a 13th round for Liquid. Again, surviving with that bare minimum of 3, making it look easy.
And the worst has happened here for Fnatic. It's a hard pill to swallow, but swallow it they must, and find a way back in they must as well. And I'm not sure what that looks like. And Liquid, they are looking insurmountable at the moment. Everything's just going their way. You know, Exist was saying we have to play our game. Well, so far this has just been all Liquid. It's just so comfortable. It's just so beautiful to watch. And now they've got such a superior advantage in firepower. Naf for the UMP straight out there in middle with the first pick. Easy does it here for Liquid.
A lot of damage onto Exist as well with the follow-up nade. But yeah, this is a tough one. They're going to need 13 rounds in a row, take it in regulation at this rate. And honestly, that is a harsh task for any caliber of team. Even the best in the world will struggle with that. One misstep. Supposing this one goes the way of Liquid, I mean, there's still a chance these Deagles come out on top. The way it's been going, I do not think that is even possible at this point. Liquid are so clean. JW is creeping in behind here, though. This is maybe a chance for him to drop a couple. Oh, JW! No. He waits too long. They completely change angle, and it's a difficult one to see, but a timing that he kind of misplayed, unfortunate, makes the aim pretty difficult.
Yeah, it does look pretty bad, and it's going to feel pretty bad, but that can happen surprisingly often, and it does sort of really surmise fairly well how this game has been going for Fnatic. There has been some opportunities, some missed opportunities, but you can't give Liquid even a chance. Nice little kill there from Twist, but it won't really amount to all that much in the end. 14-3 there for Team Liquid. And I like how Team Liquid played that anti-eco. It felt like they had a protocol which basically, you know, we'll wait until we get 2 picks, and once we get 2 picks, we group together and go. I'm not sure if there's a specific protocol there, but it was a pretty safe approach, and it looked very methodical, and it worked out perfectly for them. Now, this is it. This is it. Liquid have to, or rather, Fnatic have to make this work. Here's the AWP on JW. No Kevlar, no nades with it. Has to work, though.
This needs to be huge for a long string of rounds. This is the first step, the spark that perhaps could light the flame of the comeback. But we shall see. Slight little bit of B main control with that general utility. Now in towards the middle off the back of a few simple flashbangs. Twist almost taking down Naf, but you can kind of see the nerves coming in. He sprays those first few bullets, and rather than chasing for the kill, just drops back so far. Just have Brolin obviously close behind him to help out, but still, you can just see that confidence is not quite there from the Fnatic boys at the moment.
And that mid control is going to really pay dividends here for Team Liquid. Despite taking some damage on Naf, Fnatic have to start taking map control back themselves. They're going to make a play. They are actually opting to go fairly passive, and it can be a bit gambly, as we can see 3 players towards A. What if the B split was coming in now? They can't really know that for sure. So it becomes really awkward, and it is indeed going to be a B split. They'll lose Stewie, who was harassing the positions, but there's the trace coming in towards Checkers, and now it's so important that Twist holds his position. If he goes down fast, there's a huge chance here for Liquid, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. Twist takes him down immediately, and now Liquid are into the site.
Oh, but Exists through that smoke does manage to drop another, keeping the advantage at least for now. JW looks away just at the wrong time, allowing the bomb to cross and the plant to come in. Elige is in position to deal with the post plants. I think he just heard Crims outside, but not entirely sure of where he wants to move to. There's no kits available. There's no utility available for either side. This comes all down to the shots so far. It is going well for Fnatic. Crims comes in from the back end to secure a 4th round. It is that first step, but again, it's still in the dignity-saving stages at this point. It's not looking like a fully fledged comeback as yet.
That was a really close one there, and again, it's very scary because Fnatic had to be really reactive. You know, they had 3 players on A. Stewie was keeping them entertained from the door position, you know, making it them question what was going on. Fnatic, they lost middle. They had no control on A main, no control in B storage, very little information. Still managed to make it work on a retake. That's not going to happen every time. We're going to have to see, I think, some more decisive plays on the map control there from Fnatic to more consistently be able to shut down these plays, or else Liquid eventually, one of those rounds is going to work. They just need 2 of them to work.
Exactly. It is that pressure that is constantly on. And in the previous round, and in the pistol as well, Liquid were very slow. They took their time, didn't give too much information away. If anything, just to keep those mind games, you know, heavily on Fnatic, keeping them worried, keeping them a little bit frightened. Tiny bit of damage done onto Exist here. Nice little boost up over towards A, of course, into Shroud. Another nasty little smoke, I think, going to go again to the top of Highway. So teams are liking this one today. Oh, missed shot from JW. Up on top of the lamp is Exist. Bit of a one and done. Spot looks away at the wrong time, though. He's been spotted. So blind, jumps down to find a kill. The Fnatic team are moving in towards this site, but they are getting ripped apart. It was looking good for a second. A 4 versus 2 that very, very quickly becomes a 2 versus 2. Brolan now the only one remaining. Oh, the double spray comes through as they try so very hard on the Liquid side, leaving him on 2 HP. Such an awkward little exchange there, but nonetheless, Fnatic, by the skin of their teeth, win another round.
I can't believe just like quite how perfect that was for Brolan. Just like the second blade's creeping in to the tail end of the spray. That could have gone very, very badly. So that was a close shave for Fnatic, and their money is really not looking the best. You can see it's reflected here by their weaponry. FAMAS, no AWP out there. However, you know, it is going to be around where they can build money. As long as they didn't lose any players here, that will be fine. Twist is going aggressive. Well, he's going to get some information. Hello! Everyone's here. It's a party over the YP storage, and Twist, he's got the party poppers there, and that will be another round for Fnatic.
Yeah, these past couple rounds will be good for Brolan if people have been paying attention. He was only on 4 kills before that little clutch, and then a couple of eco frags to boot. Pulls him up to 8, so maybe if he, again, and the rest of the team, I suppose, gets that confidence rolling, the CT side could look a little bit better. And obviously it is important. I think there's a heavy argument to be made that everybody needs to be firing on all cylinders on the CT side to have a good chance, especially on a map like Cash, where, you know, you lose one player uncontested and suddenly the T side have got so much control, and it becomes very difficult to retake with the lesser weaponry, with the lack of utility.
Previously we spoke about some of this map control. I love that from Stewie. Makes it feel very uncomfortable for Crims. And I wonder if perhaps a step in A main has been heard, and perhaps that's why Stewie's doing it, or if he's just trying to do that for presence. But look how passive this setup is from here, from Liquid here. They've taken this default. They've got a man in Sunroom. They had a man just keeping control of, well, pretty much all the extremities there. Seeing if Fnatic will mix things up and go aggressive, knowing that they're not on the most perfect buy ever, perhaps. Now Liquid at the 1 minute mark, looking to maybe go for a delayed mid-take.
It's difficult to see. Some of this utility usage from Fnatic is a little bit questionable early on. A wasted Molotov completely from JW. It's not necessarily needed. He's so very blind. Are they going to check this angle in time? I think he hits above him and manages the first, but immediately traded in. However, they do well to work together. That mid control, learning from Liquid perhaps. But then JW with the repeak. I'm not so sure about that, Dan. It costs an awful lot of control, and obviously that man advantage that they had. An unwise move, in my opinion.
It does look like it. Very well here. Quick trade as they now make their way onto that B bomb site. The re-smoke for the cross on CT as they try to get the bomb planted. Time is against them here. They have to go to the sites. Naf makes it happen, though. If he went down, that would have been very problematic. But there goes the plant. Twist keeping him safe there. Should Exist push heaven very quickly. But Exist will make his way forwards from Tree, trying to make this one work with that FAMAS. Knowing that one's on the sites, he's got to be quite fortunate here. Goes for the drop down. There is the info. Now they know exactly where he is. And there's not all that much he can do. Twist takes him out. And that will be match point, or rather, sorry, game point, I should say, for Team Liquid. Just map one if you're just joining us here in the semi-final.
Yeah, beautifully played there by Twist. Here's that sound cue come in, obviously. And instead of just holding the angle close in the corner, he kind of goes and walks in towards the middle. And as you saw, it makes things, again, very awkward in the end for Exist because he's going for that heavy swing in on the left. And just cannot react in time. Again, it is that experience, that cool, calm, collected nature that Liquid are going to be having to take plays like that. Maybe move in a little bit riskier, just because they are so very confident, they are so very far ahead. But like you said, they only needed the 2 rounds, now only the 1. See what Fnatic can do to return. Twist looking sharp as he takes down his counterpart, his Swedish counterpart, without the Zeds.
It's a big loss as well. You know what? You're trying to get that aggressive play towards B storage. You want that information. At least they do manage to get the trade out with the AWP. The confidence from getting that kill from Twist, perhaps making him think that he could go for that push and not expecting to run into an AWP. And it happens, and hey, Liquid just going to go for it. Just straight into the A-bomb site. And it's actually pretty open. Trips here with the Deagle, but not for too much longer. The Scout is at distance and smoked off. Doesn't really pose an immediate threat. This is looking not too bad, actually, for Team Liquid right now.
Elige gets the information. There's a couple moving in. As that bomb goes down into now the 4 versus 2. Really not looking good for Fnatic. Oh, JW does manage to find another, but immediately traded back. The Scout in a 1 versus 3 clutch. Don't really see it happening. No kit available and very little information to work with. Struggling to get past this first player at Forklift. He's doing his damnedest. Nice little headshot, but 1 HP is an easy pickup for Elige in the end. Perhaps a little bit too much there with the headshot, but a 16-6 scoreline. So very well done by Liquid. That CT side especially, Dan, it looked hella clean. I would be scared going into that second round.
Yeah, completely outclassed there. Team Liquid, it was a masterclass of playing cash. We saw a great CT side. They had a horrible start. They lost that pistol round. They had to recover pretty quickly. They managed to get the Deagles out, and they didn't go for the round win. They just picked off a couple players, peeled them away, picked up an AK to play into the next round, found a good way to play that AK, had a nice little defensive setup, and then took so much money from being successful. And that round just built and then built and then built, and never at any point did they really look all that challenged. It was just them making the plays, them taking the initiative, doesn't matter which half.
Yeah, I mean, initially it was, 10 rounds in a row from them after picking up that 3rd round. So, yeah, it was pretty uncontested, and the majority of the rounds is kind of, as I said a few times, it's sort of that bare minimum of 3 where things start to get a bit costly on the CT side. You want to be surviving with that, and there was maybe 2 rounds where it came down to a bomb plant retake type situation in the rounds that they won. The rounds that they lost, obviously, it was the bomb plant that ultimately allowed Fnatic through, but still an incredibly good first half, and then just carrying that momentum through to the second one in the end.
Well, to break that down some more, we've got Buck and the lads on the couch.
Well, I think that game kind of went how we expected it to. Yeah, I mean, that was something, wasn't it? I mean, Fnatic wins pistol, they won the next round, with Liquid saving, obviously, and then once Liquid was able to buy guns, then that was pretty much in the story. Oh, we're good now. Hey, there we are. So to recap what I said really fast, Liquid smashed them. There you go. That CT side especially was just suffocating. Expert on one analyst work. Yeah, there you go. All right, how are you?
Yeah, that defense was pretty dirty from Team Liquid, and I think a lot of it might go under the radar because everyone was just fragging out so hard, but there was a lot of really good communication and teamwork from Team Liquid, like juggling who's taking the initial attack, making sure the kills are traded, any frag that comes in is traded, being patient, realizing you're in a position where you can just anchor and kind of hide and wait for another teammate to take the engagement and make it easier on yourself. So there was a lot of really cool micro teamwork things that Team Liquid did that was super impressive. Especially, I mean, I know it's only 1 player coming in, but still, first time with this that we've seen this roster. They played 2 games yesterday, obviously, but that was super impressive. They made that look way too easy. That went as I expected in terms of who won, but the way that it won, I expected a little bit more resistance from Fnatic on this map, but The other thing that I took away from that CT side is these Augs are just getting silly.
Oh, yeah, they are. Yeah.
They're getting a little silly now.
I think Elige is like one of the players in the world that has like most embraced the AUG, and also the SG on T side, because that doesn't get used as much as the AUG does on CT, but he really embraced it on the T side as well, and he was just so good. Almost dropped 30 kills that game. I thought another cool takeaway from the CT side going alongside the teamwork was the fact that I don't think Nitro touched the AWP a single time this entire game. Like, I'm pretty sure it started out with Naf and Twist as the two oppers, one on each site, and then I think Stewie had it for a little bit at one point. Yeah. Nitro was just sticking to the AUG alongside Elige. So that was kind of an interesting little tweak, because you would expect Nitro to at least use the op somewhat on the CT side. He didn't use it at all. So again, some of those adjustments coming in. And again, when we talked about this pregame, Cache is one of those maps that the least changes had to be made. Like, Stewie really did just kind of take up a lot of Taco spots, like Skidor on T side, for instance, very comfortable playing from that position. So this is like the map that I think was the easiest for Liquid to play. Your first official LAN matches, a map that you didn't have to tweak too much.
I mean, touching upon what you were saying, Jason, I just noticed in that final round, Elige peeks from Forklift, and he spots two players coming up from Truck. He's top fragging, and it's 15 to whatever the score was. I think it was 15-6. So he's top fragging. They've got the bomb site secured. Other players might just re-peek and try to take that engagement. He sits and waits and plays the scenario, and then he gets a pop flash, and he peeks wide and kills the guy. Yeah. That's like just a little tiny thing that some people might not notice, but that patience shows that Liquid is working together as a unit. And it shows just a lot of the mindset and focus that those players have. And those are things that they started doing, last year and even a little bit before their real rise, that made you feel like Liquid was finally kind of putting it together and becoming like a complete team. Like little small things like that, and also like, turning from flashbangs and hectic situations, that kind of communication that came in. They were the first North American team to really kind of play that style that the Europeans are very, very good at. The teams like Astralis, the Danish teams that have been doing things like that for a while now. So that was one of the first, those small details are some of the first things I noticed when Liquid was getting better and better, and still having him here. I mean, yeah, he very easily could have just repeaked, and probably no one would have called him out for it because he's having such a good game and it was such a big lead. And to be honest with you, even if he had it, it wouldn't have been that big of a deal just because of how big the lead was. But the fact that he doesn't just shows, that's trust in your teammates, that's trust in the game plan, that's trust in, you're just making good decisions all across the board.
I mean, they kind of tie into what both of you have been saying about the team play and the utility. I mean, when you look at some of the statistics from last year, this team was some of the best, even ranked over Astralis in percents of deaths that were traded back. Like, they were really good at their spacing, syncing up together, peeking things together, really good utility use statistics, really good 5 versus 4 conversions. So they don't really let go of rounds that they have advantages in. And those are just all signs to basically supplement your claim that they just do really have really good teamwork for, all these teams out there.
And Elige was a pretty big daddy in this game. He was powder at bottoms.
Well, we are going to throw things to a break before we jump into our second map. We'll see if Fnatic can bounce back, but I don't think the crowd would like that too much. We'll be back in just a bit with more here from the iBUYPOWER Masters 2019. Stay tuned.
Think you can't clutch through a smoke while recording in full resolution and streaming the play to the world? Watch this. Counter-terrorists win. Think you can't get famous in a flash? Like become your own meme famous? Watch this. Think he's been there, done that? With Intel Core i7, he's just getting started. Game, record, stream without compromise on Intel Core i7.
Introducing the all-new Corolla hatchback. Toyota, let's go places.
Bomb has been planted.
Cool, right? Want to know where I got it? Well, look, go to cs.money. It's a trade platform and a marketplace at the same time. Just choose, click, and get. Good luck, bro.
LootBet, made for live betting.
Watch me crush it like a wrecking ball. On fire, so high to the top is where I'm heading. Gonna be a legend. Gonna be a legend.
Numerous forces aimed at the Earth. Evil and injustice. Let the glorious battle begin. Geared up for victory. LG Ultra Gear Gaming Monitor. Forces aimed at the Earth. The glorious battle begin. Geared up for victory. LG Ultra Gear Gaming Monitor.
Thinks you can't get a last-second clutch? Watch this. Think he can't carry his team while streaming in high resolution? All the while recording a once-in-a-lifetime win? Watch this. Think leveling up only happens in-game? Watch this. On Intel Core i7, they'll rise to every challenge. Now it's your turn. Game, record, stream without compromise on Intel Core i7.
LootBet, made for live betting.
Introducing the all-new Corolla hatchback. Toyota, let's go places.
Cool, right? Want to know where I got it? Well, look, go to cs.money. It's a trade platform and a marketplace at the same time. Just choose, click, and get. Good luck, bro.
Like a wrecking ball.